Oh, there's not going to be table. We should do it next panel. No, no.
Yeah, we'll do it at the next panel.
Yeah, for the Yeah, well, what we'll do is that, we'll take a few more questions here. We got, right, we go until 1, right? Yeah, so, I mean, we still got
All right, we got 10 minutes.
What we'll do is that we'll go 10 more minutes, taking questions. And then for autographs, come to her panel and then probably, like, what do you think about now? Yeah,
okay. I'm gonna try and patch Nilla in via Skype.
Well, that's may help with that, I don't know.
No, I was thinking, like, well, you know what, if there's wireless here, I could just put the computer right there, and put the mic on.
And we'll do autographs then, and pretty much any other time there's a panel, because there's like 2-hour sessions, like we'll usually do it halfway through. I started doing Q&As and go long, so, but yeah, so we'll wrap it up with some more questions here, and so let's keep them rolling. I guess wait, sure.
Do you think that Hollywood's willingness to repeat a lot of the movies that really come together?
Alright, so people always ask, do you think movies are getting worse?
Yes.
No. Sturgeon's law. However, the film industry is changing a lot in terms of what they call tentpoles. And tentpoles are basically the idea that the studio, rather than funneling a lot of resources into a lot of different projects, they will funnel all of their resources into one big project, like Battleship or Joe or Transformers.
Mention that piece of crap. That's really.
So basically, what the tentpole has done is make this, and it's a business decision and a focus group thing, and it is really depressing because it basically, where you used to have a lot of different storylines, now you kind of only have one, where it's like, coming of age guy has adventures with aliens, always. Or coming of age guy has fights Cobra Commander.
But does he make humorous mistakes?
He will get a love interest.
Oh, is she bland?
Right. They both are, unless it stars Will Smith. That's what, like, this is one of the like, a lot of times, like when I was in film school, we'd have like these Hollywood people come in, and they were always just like, "Here's what sells: Will Smith." And white people. Nothing. And it's like the Will Smith anomaly is kind of like confusing because they keep trying to repeat it. But he's like, there's only one thing, because you've got your international market and your domestic market, and this sort of thing about the tentpole and the brand name recognition and the fact that people will see a movie. It has a name that they know. So if you make Monopoly the movie, and it costs $200 million to make, it will make $200 million because people know the name Monopoly. And it's a sad truth. And it's like, you just say, like, people, stop seeing the movies. And the people don't stop. And I don't know
Exactly.
why. Yeah, and
you pay with your wallets.
I will see
you tell them with your wallets.
Because of people like you! I live by watching you!
It's like, if people are like, oh, Transformers 2 was so awful, Transformers 3 was so awful, but everyone wants to see it. Because they know the word Transformers.
And we have a good excuse. We have to see it, okay? We're required to see it.
We're required by law. It's like on our tax return, like you have to check a box, did you see Transformers?
Yeah.
So, like, that is the trend now, is the tentpole. And I honestly, like, looking into the future, the saddest truth of all is that where 20 and 30 years ago, you would have a Star Wars or an E.T. or a big studio movie made by a relatively unknown director, and the story would be a new, unknown thing. The only time that happens now is by very well-established directors like Christopher Nolan and James Cameron. And that to me is really sad that they are sort of our last holdout, and the studios kind of really need it when movies like exceptionally well, because then they can't predict the future, and that's what's persistent.
Well, and it's a very, we've gotten to a point where they're very safe choices, because no matter what, there is an audience. Even if it isn't a huge hit, you are guaranteed there is an audience, and someone will go see it. And why take a risk on something that, it could be a hit, but it could be a big bomb. Here's something that's guaranteed to make you money, because the name is...
Like, John Carter was the worst marketed movie I think I've seen in many years. Because after WALL-E, I understand directing Finding Nemo and WALL-E, by that point Disney was like, no, he didn't. This was his first live-action movie, and Disney was like, oh, I understand, anything you want. And they put Andrew Stanton into cartoon marketing. Big mistake. Because he was under this impression that people in 2012 knew what John Carter published in 1912 was.
Is that when it came out?
Wow. Yeah, it's a 100-year-old book that has never been adapted. And you're like, well, no, Tarzan. Yeah, Tarzan had adaptation.
Well, I know. I'm a well-read gal.
Yeah, well, you're kind of in the minority. Like, I didn't know, and I'm a pretty big science fiction fan. I read a lot. I didn't know who John Carter was until the movies started getting trailers, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a really old science fiction book. They made it because of that brand name recognition, which it turned out it didn't have.
It becomes rarer and rarer for new stuff to get out because of that. And now here's sort of the plus side, and what really sort of showed me this was these new Batman movies is that, when the new Batman movies were coming out, I'm like, again, love Batman, but it's been done to death. I don't know how much more you can do. And they were sort of finding this new way of telling the story and giving this new spin and sort of this different angle. And that, I think, we are seeing with some of these movies. Not many, but some. We are seeing a new take, and that's something where I think to, like, Greek mythology or something like that, where you can take these characters, that are very strong characters, and you can retell these stories, you can give it new spins, and you can, in doing so, actually almost tell a new story as well. So that's kind of fascinating, and sometimes I like seeing what they do with the adaptations, but it's rare. It's usually just a rehash, or they do something, like I said, it's very carefully marketed and analyzed and stuff like that, just more for what will sell. That is, hey, we really want to tell this in a new way, because we see the potential.
Right now, our last great hope for original ideas is publishing and adaptations. Hunger Games.
So get ready!
Have either of you seen any of Darren Aronofsky's films, like Black Swan or High? Or do you have any thoughts on them?
Yeah.
I take it back. For whatever reason, The Wrestler really struck a chord with me, and I don't know why, because I went in knowing what the story was going to be, and
Aronofsky did direct that.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
You don't even need to look that one up.
That's the window. Wasn't that nominated the same year last one?
No. Another year. Oh, boy, I'm getting $1 million. I love it. Yeah, good job.
No, because I was at a panel at the DGA where Darren Aronofsky.
I'm pretty sure it was not. And something about that, I think because it didn't quite take the same easy route. It's like, oh, when he gets back together with his daughters, and it's like, well, no, something happens, and it is his fault. And it's not like, oh, but they'll get back together again. Isn't that misunderstanding? No, it's like a lot of this hard stuff really does stay, in this difficult place, and sometimes you're not forgiven, and it's a very hard place to be, and just this retreat into this world, and at the end, and for whatever reason, that really struck a chord with me, and I thought that, even though it's a story I sort of knew going in, it actually did hit something with me.
No, I think, in my defense, I confused it with the Mark Wahlberg movie that did come out the same year as Black Swan. What was it called? What was it called?
Nobody's saw
it. Thank you.
But you saw it. Let's do Bearded Man there.
This one's kind of a two-parter. First of all, where did the idea of having the nostalgia critic as an M. Bison for Chip Daxter come about? And two, how much of that fight with Dr. Insano was just you and Spoonie being ridiculous?
The costume just came from, if we're invading this place, that's what the critic would wear.
Of course!
Let's go.
I drew a picture of that years ago before I saw
for the fight scene, it was pretty much just some of it was planned, a lot of it was just made on. Just saw sort of what we could do, when we got there with the kitchen, we were in charge of the setup. So, yeah.
Next will be the last one-ish.
Last one-ish.
All right.
You.
Okay, obviously you guys can't disclose what's going to be happening with the 4th anniversary, but...
Penguins.
Awesome!
Big spoiling! That's our title!
Keeping it in for so long.
You can't have penguins without a mortgage.